Hello, guys. Welcome to the Powerbomb Project. My name is Berman, one of your hosts, followed by my other two hosts,
Chris.
And Daniel,
and we're reviewing my retro watch that I wanted to pick, which is Blackpool 2, UK NXT UK whatever, Blackpool 2. And for in general review, I actually really loved. It was a very great one. There's probably I would call it say two matches that were not the biggest matches, but I still loved most of the interesting matches that happened. And one really great match. One of them is probably one of the best matches of that year, I would say, too. What do you guys think?
If it's what I think it is, then I'm gonna wait until we get there, Berman, because I have a feeling we're all thinking the same match.
Yes, I know. Danny?
I thought it was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it even more than the first one.
So let's move on for the first match. Trent Seven versus Eddie Dennis. For background, these two were friends a long time ago before NXT UK happened, and then Eddie Dennis blamed Trent Seven for doing mustache mounters. It's a very weird thinking, but pretty much Eddie Dennis hates Trent Seven and he wanted revenge for the whole entire thing. And this match was not that bad. It was a very big grudge match, and Eddie Dennis was it showed a little bit better than he was in the other match that we watched was Eddie Dennis versus the Bomber Dave Mastiff. This one showed a little bit more for him, but it didn't show that big for him. But for the end, Eddie Dennis won by the what's it called, the last, I think there's a last stop driver, or I forgot it's called, the third stop driver finisher by cheating out of Trent Seven, I would say. But still, I would give this a 6 out of 10 for me.
And I'm with you too. I find it kind of funny how on the last pay per view Trent Seven was like pretty much up there, and they kind of lowered him down to like I guess mid card, if any, because I was discussing this with Daniel
Well,
yesterday, and I was just
it's the
like, what
same.
happened? But it was a
It's
really
the
good
same
match though.
spot. It's the opener, but
Yeah.
it's just it's just definitely has far less stakes than the other opener.
Well, point being, I enjoyed it. I mean, Trent Seven, I'm glad he's still around. I don't know what he's doing now, but it's a shame to kind of see him this down low because of that excellent tag team match. So I'll just give it a 6. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was fine.
Well, yeah, the two they clearly saw Tyler Bate as the better of the two. It was understandable. Um,
Damn.
and yeah, if you look at how things turned out, Trent Seven is no longer with the company. Tyler Bate is still with the company. And Tyler Bate has a North American title match coming up next week against Wesley. So he's doing his thing in NXT right now, and Trent's out there in the Indies. So, this was kind of the beginning of that end to Mustache Mountain in the way. Because, Tyler Bate went after Walter on the pay-per-view before, and Jordan Devlin targeted Tyler Bate due to jealousy for owning the brand, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Point being is that Trent was kind of not having that clear cut direction that Tyler had, having opponents like Walter and Jordan Devlin. So, he was facing guys like Eddie Dennis. And the match is all right. It's better than average, I can't really say much more than that. But yeah, they clearly saw Tyler Bate as the better of the two. He was one of the NXT UK Golden Boys alongside Ilya Dragunov, I'd say. So, yeah, overall, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It is an all right opener, but the rest of the show gets better from here.
Yes. Showing off for match number 2 is NXT UK Women's Championship match. Kaylee Ray, the Forever Champ, versus Toni Storm and Piper Niven. And I'm going to say off the bat, I'm not going to say Alba Fyre. I just said it right now, but I don't like that name. I'm happy more with Kaylee Ray. That's her name. I'm going to keep it like that. So for now, I say this match was very interesting. I love all these three people in a match and just in general. And it was very fun to watch. I remember watching it the first time. It was really chaotic, with kind of Toni Stone being kind of heelish. Like she's more aggressive, more like an anti. I would call it. She's not like a face persona. She's just more, just like wanting that title more aggressively. I would call it kind of like a Braun Breaker, more or less. Piper Niven, always loved seeing her, and glad that her name is back. Then freaking Dewdrop, which I'm happy with that. But for this match, it was very fun. I liked it was kind of very close, very chaos, like a controlled chaos in this match. Very fun. And in the end, Kaylee Ray won by the gory bomb finisher that she uses, and I really liked It was fun, really fun match. I really liked it, and I would give it a 7 out of 10 for me.
And yep, I'm in the same boat because, quite frankly, I wasn't a big fan of Piper Niven or Dewdrop or whatever, but she was actually one of my favorite wrestlers during this trios match because she was absolutely destroying these two other ladies. Like, it's kind of cool that she was using her size to her advantage and she can like really do the athletic stuff, and I really, really appreciate that kind of stuff because it's kind of like I, I wouldn't say it's like outstanding, but it's just downright fun. Like she added so much variety, and plus with Toni Storm and Alba or Fyre, you're not gonna get a bad match. So it was awesome. I'll give it a 7.
I agree. This is a good match. And you also had the test of friendship here between Toni and Piper because they both won the title. But Kaylee Ray was able to take advantage and retain her title here in what was the longest reigning UK Women's Championship title reign. And yeah, rightfully so. She had some good matches like this. And it was the right decision to have her retain here since Toni already got her moment to shine with the belt. And so did others like Rhea Ripley. So yeah, now this was a good time for Kaylee Ray to, build herself up through that division. And now fans are invested in her as Alba Fyre. So it did work in the long run. So yeah, overall, I'm going to give this match a 7 out of 10. It's just very interesting to see how all three of these women now are in different promotions or brands, you could say. Like Piper Niven on Raw, Alba Fyre on SmackDown, and then Toni Storm is in AEW. Just kind of some funny to think about.
Yeah, it's always fun, and that's why Kaylee Ray is more or less called the Forever Champion too, because her longest reign too. But let's move on to the best match of the night. Match number 3: Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin for JD McDonagh. This match was amazing. This was a pretty big grudge match, and Danny was going to talk more, but I let him kind of do more about that. But I would say this match probably definitely 100% was the best match of the night. It was great, so many great counters, and I expected this because in NXT tournament they had a great match too. Because they had a match in the NXT tournament, they had pretty much this very similar match between these two. Very great match, and I was expecting the same thing here, and I expected and I got the best. This is probably one of my favorite matches from the NXT UK, except the Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne match. But this one was definitely up there too. So I gotta give this a 9 out of 10 for me.
I gotta say, as someone recently who's getting into NXT, why does every single match with JD always a banger, and with Tyler Bate, just like this match here, this is literally perfection. This is 10 out of 10. It's insane highlights. It's just flips after flips. These dudes just destroyed each other. And also, I want to shout out to JD for hitting Tyler Bate on the corner of the ring with a powerbomb. That was fucking nutty. Like, these guys hated each other. And I'm really excited to see what Tyler Bate has to do with Wesley because I already know those two are going to go at it next week. So this match is a classic. It's phenomenal. Go watch it. Just pirate it if you have to. It's fine.
Fired it. So this is what I'll say. Tyler Bate versus JD McDonagh. So this is quite the story. And I like analyzing the stories for some of these matches, especially when matches have stories I can get invested to. And this is one of those NXT UK stories I can get invested in. You got Jordan Devlin, who is the only guy in the entire indie scene that I know of, and many know of, to ever beat Walter. Tyler Bate got the same chance to do it for the UK title in the main event of TakeOver Cardiff, and he failed. So Jordan Devlin was able to beat Walter, yet Tyler Bate, the golden boy, the supposed golden boy of NXT UK, couldn't get the job done. He's a fraud of a top star. He's not a real representative of NXT UK. I am. That's how Jordan Devlin felt. That's what Jordan Devlin believed. That's the right wording I'm trying to find here. So this was about Tyler Bate not just proving to himself, but to Jordan Devlin that he is worthy of that top spot. Because Tyler Bate is having those doubts in his head after the Walter loss. Am I good enough? Can I do this? But he was able to do it against Jordan Devlin. And the cool part is that Tyler Bate is someone who would eventually go through all of UK. And, he wasn't afraid to fight anyone. And, Jordan Devlin was one of his great foes in UK. Tyler Bate got the win here, but you had Jordan Devlin kick out of the Tyler driver, which is pretty fucking great. And, then Tyler having to hit the top rope finish to end him off. It was a good way to make now JD McDonagh, but back then Jordan Devlin, look good in defeat. Both guys got the shine through this, and that's what a great match is supposed to do. And I will admit there are some portions where I kind of got a bit dozed off, but I will say this. This is undeniably an amazing match, and this is the best match on the entire show. So without a shadow of a doubt, I'm going to rate this one a 9 out of 10. Very close to a 9.5, but just to be safe for now, I'm giving it a 9.
Yeah, rightfully so. Let's go on to the next match. Match 4. It is a ladder match for the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. The boys Gallus, who are the champions right now, Wolfgang and Mark Coffey, versus Grizzled Young Veterans, or the DYAD, that is commonly known as Imperium, and South Wales Subculture, which are, if anyone doesn't know, it's Mandrews and it's called Flash Morgan Webster. And this was a very fun match. It was very again, I'm going to say kind of close to the match number 2, where it was controlled chaos. People were flying everywhere. Mainly the Mandrews and Webster were like flying everywhere, just doing all their flying over the ropes and just slipping everywhere. It was very fun. Gallus being dominant as powerhouses. The Grizzled Young Veterans being the veterans, trying to just outsmart people. Imperium kind of imposing their will. This was where Imperium kind of were their kind of the shield, the UK shield. I'm going to call it themselves right now. Kind of where they were trying to be. They were dominant in UK for a very long time. Now these days, not that dominant as a tag team, but in general group they are. But this match was very fun. But in the end, Gallus won it by good, spectacular fashion. By first, I think Wolfgang putting one of the members of Imperium through a ladder with a spear, like a tackle spear. It was very good. And then Mark Coffey finished the other member, made sure everything was okay, grabbed those titles from the ring, and won their titles back. And they are the longest reigning NXT UK champions, too. So that's a big thing, too. But for me, this was a fun match. I really liked it, too. So I actually would give this an 8 for me.
And I'm honestly, I'm positive on giving it an 8 too. I think my favorite spot of this entire match was definitely the SWS. I'm sorry, I don't know their names. I will try, but you said it earlier, so it's fine. But when those two did a double Spanish fly off of a ladder at the same time, I'm never gonna forget that, because I'm just like, even though they're tiny dudes, they're kicking so much ass against all this. Because I just love these David and Goliath matches, and it was just fun, chaotic thing. It kind of reminded me of like the Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy matches from like way back in the day when they were like much younger, and they had the agile stuff from what have you. And plus, I felt like Imperium didn't really like do much, to be quite honest, because half the time it was just the the Wolfgang, and then the young veterans or whatever were just going at it. It was a very fun match. It was a little boring in like the first 5 minutes or so, but it definitely picked up from there. So I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, I will say the first 5 to 10 minutes, around there, were very messy, very sloppy, and there was zero flow at all. It's like they didn't really know what they were doing. But then eventually they really got into a flow, got into the swing of it, and the match was really firing off on all cylinders. All 4 teams went off. You got a bit of a preview for the main event with Gallus and Imperium going at it. I think South Wales Subculture were the MVPs of this match personally. They just did so much insane stuff and took a lot of great bumps as well. But again, all 4 teams killed it. Gallus retained, and now they're the NXT Tag Team Champions, so they're moving up the ladder. Who knows? Maybe they'll win the WWE Tag Team Championship someday. Gallus is a team to keep your eye on, folks. That's all I'll say. And I might not be the biggest fan of Gallus, but I do respect Gallus, and I do have fun with some of their matches. And matches like this, yeah, I enjoy. So overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's not going to be the best ladder match you're ever going to watch, but it's pretty good. That's what I'll say. It's pretty good.
Now, let's go on to the main event, which is ironically very similar to the other main event from Blackpool 1. It is Walter, or Gunther, who has the NXT UK Championship, and this is defended, versus Joe Coffey, which is very similar to the Blackpool 1, which was Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey. It's not because I like Joe Coffey, it's because I really like the matches. But this was a very fun match. I always loved Joe Coffey. I ramble that I am probably the biggest supporter of the Gallus people because I really loved how they were doing it in UK and in NXT right now. I'm happy to see them dominant, kind of. So for me, this was a fun match, very kind of showing Joe Coffey has the potential to become this big champion, the Iron King, which how that's his nickname. His nickname. But Walter showing off that he is the most dominant NXT UK champion of all time is shown in this match, and it's definitely one of these matches where people think of from Walter's matches in general. So it's nothing else I gotta say that this was a fun match, and it was just two big dudes just slamming each other, hitting each other very hard. So one very fun match. This is probably the second best match of the night, and I'll give this an 8.5 for me.
And this is a proper demonstration of Joe Coffey, because the last pay per view we reviewed, a Blackpool 1, I wasn't really the big fan, and I didn't feel the chemistry between him and Pete Dunne. But when you give Joe Coffey these kind of opponents, like his size and his demeanor, you just get two big ass dudes going at it. This is absolutely perfection, because there's two monsters just going at it. You have Gunther doing his chops and Joey just eating them like French toast for breakfast. It is absolutely insane. It wasn't as fun as the Tyler Bate in the JD match, but this is a damn way good way to end the show, because these gentlemen have good classic encounters with each other. I fairly enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 8.
While not as long as the main event from the first pay-per-view, which was 34 minutes, this one went about 28 minutes. And yeah, another long match, but I'll tell you what, this one was really good. I thought the first match that main evented, the first Blackpool between Pete and Joe, was good. But yeah, this is the better match of the two, for sure. It was a pretty good match. And yeah, it just establishes that Walter is who he is. I will say my main critique about this match is I feel like Walter kind of needing to cheat against Joe Coffey of all people when we know how dominant Walter is just I don't know if I can believe in that element of the match, but that is the only critique I have. I think this is a very good match, and it's very ironic how he was the most dominant and longest reigning NXT UK champion. Now he is the most dominant and about to be the longest reigning intercontinental champion. And as of Joe Coffey, yeah, he's moved up to NXT. So if you look at everyone in this card, they've moved up from where they were 3 years ago, except for the two people in the first match. Kind of an interesting tale. So yeah, overall, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Pretty good main event for the show.
Yes, and the big thing that happened too was they're hinting of an invasion, meaning probably an invasion from NXT Black and Gold brand. And this kind of sets up a lot of things between them, kind of a rivalry or a big pay-per-view that they have, which is the Worlds Collide. They did it twice in the whole thing that happened with NXT and NXT Gold, and it was fun. I do say at the back. So the invasion sounds always interesting. I always remember when I've seen it before. The invasion sounded very cool, and there was a lot of great matches from the invasion too. So, what do you guys think about the invasion?
Did they ever do anything? Because I'm aware this is like the last time they had a pay per view for UK, right? Before they did the whole merge thing, or am I wrong about that?
No,
Like, what
you're
do you mean?
wrong. A bit wrong. No, I mean, Takar's saying that after this match, they never had another pay per view, but they still had matches, kind of just like regular matches, like title matches in regular shows. No more. They had no more big pay per views after this one. If that's
Yeah.
what you're trying to ask.
Rip.
So
Except Worlds Collide, which is the matches where like it was going to NXT UK versus NXT Black and Gold.
yeah, so you had Imperium versus Undisputed Era as the main event, but on the undercard you had DIY versus Mustache Mountain. I think there's also Finn Balor versus Ilya Dragunov. Quite the interesting pay-per-view that is. But yeah, so NXT UK was alive for 2.5 more years almost after this pay-per-view until it shut down and is now basically combining with the current NXT with how the Heritage Cup was brought over to NXT and all the UK belts are unified with the NXT belts now. So NXT 2.0 and NXT UK are kind of fused into like one brand, and now it's kind of like an interesting brand now than what NXT 2.0 was. So I'll definitely take where we are with NXT over where we were with 2.0.
Yeah, I would say that same thing. But for in general, all the matches in total, this full card, very fun. I would give this an 8. In old retrospect, it was very fun. A lot of great matches. There's only 2 matches that were not that well. Actually, I would say more one match that was just didn't hit right. But every match just snowballs downwards, and it's big, and it was really great, good matches. So I give this an 8 for this whole entire pay per view.
Same here. I'm with 8. It was very solid. It was definitely an improvement of the first Blackpool pay-per-view, and this was fun all around, with the exception of the opener. But that's kind of like whatever. It wasn't bad. Not one of the worst pay-per-views, but it's pretty damn good.
And I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good pay-per-view overall. And next month for July's Retro Rewatch, we did 2 for June. And guess what, people? We're also doing 2 for July. So those were 2 of Berman's choices, NXT UK Blackpool 1 and 2. But now, for my 2 choices, I'm going to say it right now. The first one is going to be the very first ever All In. Because before we could review All In 2, we got to review the original. And then the second one for the 11-year anniversary of Option C. It will be our very first ever TNA retro review.
Yeah, that's gonna be big reveals here at the Powerbomb Project right now. So thank you guys for watching, and stick tuned so we can watch the retro rewatches together. I'm Ben Berman,
I've been Chris.
And I'm in Daniel.
and I see you guys in the next video.